I didn't break it more than it already was. We're in luck.
This Nintendo Switch is sent to me because it's not reading game cards. I just keep getting this error that the game card cannot be read and please remove it and reinsert it. So, I took a look inside and the pins were pretty dirty. I'm going to try to clean this out with the worst game that I own for the Switch. I coated the pins with a generous amount of contact cleaner and then put it in and out of the system multiple times. This method works for any kind of cartridge game such as Game Boys, N64s, you name it. I also tried to clean it out with a brush and some more contact cleaner and I had the same result. So I'll have to open this up. I'm going to remove the center screw on both sides of the rails, these 2 screws beside the charging port, 4 screws in each corner, and a screw hidden underneath the kickstand and SD card. Now, just as the kickstand is missing, there is also a missing screw that's supposed to be right here on top. With all of those removed, the back plate will pop right off, exposing this little metal plate. Now, this has a few screws in it that all need to come out in order to remove it. With that plate off, I'm able to remove the card reader and the headphone jack, which is conveniently super simple to remove. Now, an incredibly easy repair would just be to swap this entire piece out. However, this part can be around $65 Canadian. So I'm just going to remove the card reader itself, which is about $11 Canadian. I took low melt solder and mixed it in with all of the pins as well as the anchor points. This is so it will melt at a lower temperature and easily pop off. Using heat resistant Kapton tape, I covered all the plastic bits and pieces I didn't want damaged and then exposed everything to heat until it all melted and popped right off. With a healthy amount of flux and a little bit of solder wick, I removed all the excess solder from the pads as well as the anchor points. I bought this new port from eSource Parts, which I'm going to link down in my description. I started by putting the legs through the anchor holes and then soldering them down so it wouldn't move anywhere. Then I soldered each individual pin down to their pads using a flathead iron tip. This took a few passes as well as a bunch of flux to ensure that there is no bridges. I used a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip just to clean it up, and then I had to go back and clean up some of my mess with some solder wick. I never once said I was perfect, that's for sure. With it all done, I checked continuity on all the pins beside each other to ensure that it didn't have any bridges or shorts between them.
Okay, so that is back in. I rehooked up the battery. We're going to turn this on. Hopefully it turns on. Okay. I didn't break it more than it already was. We're in luck. We have the customer's game. Going to put it in the slots. Okay, so I played around with it for a little bit, just kind of testing different things, tried cleaning out, nothing really worked. And then I put all the screws back in to properly secure it. And that did it. I don't know why that did it. It's fixed, so yay.
With it now working, we need to address some other damage. And I'll start with this Joycon. It just needs a new analog stick, which is a super simple repair. You quite literally just pop out the old one and then pop in a new one, ensuring that the ribbon cable is secured, and put it all back together. Now thankfully this isn't actually screen damage, this is just a screen protector. This is why I highly recommend anybody that has a Switch gets one, so it's just going to easily pop off to be replaced later. Once I thought I was done, I tested all the buttons to ensure everything was working, and I found that the right Joy-Con's bumper was broken. So I stripped it down to the board, and I found that the button had been completely broken off. This is usually caused by someone dropping the Switch, unfortunately. The pads have been completely ripped off, so I can't simply just solder it back on. I'm going to have to run some jumper wires. There are just 2 alternative solder points that you attach your wires to. However, you need to be careful because anything gold on this board that you see is conductive, so your wires cannot touch it. The 2 outside terminals of this button solder to the same point. Now you can solder a single terminal to this point, but I like to be extra safe and solder both of them on. With everything soldered down, I cleaned it with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip, and then ensured that none of those wires were touching any of the gold points. This includes all of the lettering. Now this repair can be quite difficult just because of the size of it. It requires a steady hand, patience, and a place to cry once you're finished. With my tears all wiped away, I used a little bit of UV solder mask just to cover everything up to ensure that nothing shorts out and give it a little more stability. With it back together, we gave it another test, and it's working fine. To complete this restoration, I put on a new screen protector to ensure that the customer can see everything clearly, and of course to further protect the system, because by golly, I think this thing's gonna need it. One final test and it's ready to go back home.
Now it's all back together, and the customer had included his Minecraft game, so I went into it just to ensure that the cart reader was working, and I got a little carried away.
They were on a new world with no resources, so I made a little starter house here and filled a chest full of resources. And of course, I left my signature.
So, let's save the consoles. Now, if you like this video, please consider hitting the thumbs up there. If you want to see more, you can always hit subscribe. And as always, I'm learning as I go, so please don't imitate me without first doing your own research. However, I encourage you to learn with me. So, until next time, take care.